Okay, tell me when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to read, I'm here in the Alumni Center with William and Jane. I'm going to read Bear Fight. Bear Fight. When Liza fell in with the bear, I was more than disappointed, as I had been in love with her since childhood. What's he got that I don't? I asked as we walked past the diner together. He's a bear, she said. She let go of my hand. He gets a little jealous when I'm out with my friends. Why do you want to be with a bear anyway? Two teenagers pushed past us with their skateboards. Balloons floated above Main Street, announcing a sale at the furniture shop. Why do you want to be with me, she asked. We parted ways when the light changed, but later I went to her home dressed as a bear. She opened the door. Come in, she said, putting her arms around me. You don't smell like a bear, she said. Then in walked the bear with a fierce look on his face. He growled, and so did I. He cuffed me, so I cuffed him back. Then we grappled with each other, bear hugging until Liza stepped in between us and held out her hands. I'm sick of bears, she said. Get out of here. I ripped off my bear mask. I'm not a bear, I said. The bear ripped off his. I quit this game, he said. I'm not a bear either. Liza removed her mask, and she wasn't Liza. We ran away as fast as we could. I made it back to my place and locked the door, turning on the outside light, but all night I heard her huffing. This is a poem about being in love with somebody who's in love with a bear, but it's also about being in love with somebody who's not in love with you for whatever reason and thinking that person is a certain kind of person while that person thinks you're a certain kind of person and thinks the person she's in love with is a certain kind of person. It turns out nobody is the kind of person they think they are or they think the other person is. And we don't always know what we're getting ourselves into, you know, when we did this. But I mean, it starts out with this idea of his being in love with somebody who's in love with a bear. Then it turns out that she's somebody entirely different. And by the end, she's pursuing him rather than him pursuing her. And he's gotten a little bit more, he's bitten off a little bit more than he thought he can. Well, yeah, I think, you know, later it's kind of funny because I did this as a kind of like, I could sort of sense the punchlines coming. So I just did it as a piece to really enjoy. It turned out to be about a lot more than that, you know, as I started to think about it later. But I think I was thinking about, there were two things. When I was younger, I used to make people come into my place and listen to comedy albums like Woody Allen's Nightclub Years and Lenny Bruce's and Richard Pryor, you know. And I just say, quiet, you got to listen to this. So anyway, Woody Allen had this routine that about, it starts out with, I shot a moose in New York City. This was years, and it was on a Saturday, and it turns out he mounts the moose on his car, and the moose isn't dead, the moose is alive, so he takes the moose to a costume party. So I think that was somewhere, and then there was a story, it's funny, I only thought about this later, but my best friend in 8th grade and I were, my best friend was going out with this girl who I thought was just a knockout, and I was kind of semi in love with her, and he went on vacation, and then all of a sudden we were sort of in love with each other for 5 days, me and my best friend's girlfriend, and she was kind of like, we were in 8th grade and she was there, and then my best friend returned, and we sort of got in an argument in front of her at her house, like we were both fighting over her, and she finally said, you know, stop it, I don't like either one of you. I'm going out with a senior in high school who's the best player in the basketball team. I don't need either one of you. So I think somewhere in the back of my mind, that whole thing of us arguing over this girl that we just both, you know, we were in 8th grade, we just really had both made out with her, that was it. And we both had gone out with her for 5 days apiece. And then she dropped both of us for obviously a star basketball player in the high school. She was only in the, actually, 9th, 10th, she was only in junior high, and she met this guy in quick time and dumped us both, you know. She lived in a different school district. So that maybe that's where the probably personal element of the story came in. Because a lot of these, I moved from autobiographical writing in my earlier books to tale telling and spinning and using a more representative self, you know, something that's more like the communal voice of the tale or the fable. So I'm not really telling, you know, you can't find Jeff Friedman who lives at a particular address with bears in these particularly. Although in some of them I do sense there is a personal story behind some of them, and it's just become more fabulous in nature. You know, it's become turned into a kind of magical transformation into something else, if you know what I mean.